There's the Piano Man on Magic at 8:36, and it's a Tuesday morning, and it's, 8:36, and that means it's time for an installment of Good Policies with Mike Barrett from Barrett Insurance. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
Okay, hey.
Ho.
So I log in.
Remember, hey, ho.
Oh, I do. Goodness.
Sorry.
So I log into my Facebook page this morning, and lo and behold, at the top of my news feed, you see that?
I do see that.
You are very familiar with that. Folks, go to my page or go to NEK Cancer Action Network. We're talking about an event coming up in September. Mike, I'm reading about this. This sounds like so much fun. We're not going to put a lot of time into it right now, but who came up with the idea of this scavenger hunt?
Yeah, our events committee, Dan Kopp and the crew, Paula Ward, all kind of put their heads together, and they had heard about these types of events and decided to see how they could do one. And man, I'll tell you, they've put a lot of energy and effort into making this happen. You know, one of the things with NEK Can is that, you know, we want to let people know that we're here to help, right? So not only are we giving money to those who are recipients of our grants, which are people who are actively getting treated for cancer in the Northeast Kingdom, you know, the monetary part is nice, but we also want them to know that we're there, you know, and I think that I've talked to some recipients and they feel that. And this NEK Can scavenger hunt is going to create a community event, a team event that's going to be fun for the teams, going to bring a lot of people together, and just an opportunity to have a really good time while raising money to help those in our community who are fighting cancer.
Well, I'm reading through it here, and it's saying put together a team if you want of however many people will legally fit in your vehicle. Okay,
right.
What happens?
We don't specify the type of vehicle, so you could get a bus if you want.
Well, yeah, you can get a bus, or you could have a convoy. You could have a whole team of like 2 or 3 rigs.
It's got to be one car.
Oh, okay.
One car. And
All
many
right.
people in one vehicle. Not car, vehicle.
All right. We'll talk more about it as September gets closer. I just thought that was way cool because you guys teased up to this for so long.
Yeah.
All right.
And we do have our NEK Can car show coming up next month, too. So if you go to the Facebook page or the website, check that out, too.
That's on my page, too. All right. So I'm looking at the calendar. Believe it or not, the official first day of summer is just a week and a couple of days away. And when it comes to summer, I'm a pet owner, but I don't have a canine.
Uh-huh.
And we always try to remember our
You have a
listeners
feline.
out there. I do. I have the best feline in the world. But we try to remember our listeners out there, hey, if you're going to motor around with your pet in them, don't keep them in a hot vehicle. And that made me think we haven't talked about the availability of pet insurance in a while.
Yeah, that's actually a great topic. You know, there's a lot of companies in that field, in that realm, that offer pet insurance. And which one's right for you? That's the question. Well, it's really a matter of just looking around. And many people, it's interesting, Jeff, because a lot of people, especially when we talk about it or if we mention it in passing to somebody, they'll go, oh, I like a quote. And we'll give them a quote on pet insurance. And a lot of times they kind of get some sticker shock, thinking maybe it'd be $100 or $200 a year. Maybe it's $400 or $500 a year, or maybe $500, $600 or $700 or $800 or $900 or $1,000 a year. It really depends on the coverage that you want. Now, what is pet insurance? It's really medical insurance for your pet, and it's for cats and dogs. Many of these companies are cats and dogs only. They don't go to the snakes and the raptors and the chickens and things like that, but cats and dogs. But they are truly a domestic animal that becomes a member of your family, and they can get sick. And so the purpose of a pet insurance policy is to have coverage so that you're not getting a diagnosis for your animal or having them sustain an injury, either one of those, where you're now at a crossroads going, we can't afford what's about to happen here. And many times these are very curable, fixable instances, but it's going to be a very expensive process to go through. And that's what pet medical is for.
Okay, so let me ask you this here. We now know, or at least and I know you're going to go on more about this here. We now know that you'll have coverage if your pet is injured or becomes ill. But if somebody has this in advance, does it cover diagnoses as well?
You know, there is different coverage components that you can select with all the companies, and I'm speaking in a general sense, even companies that we don't work with, very similar in how I'm describing this. So you pick the coverage. You can have the exam fees included or not included in your coverage. You can have many other components. You can have regular health visits and vaccinations included in your coverage with some companies up to a certain set amount annually. But remember, this is pet medical, so you're going to choose the deductible. And whatever deductible you choose, we'll start with a $500 deductible. You do a $500 deductible, you have one event not covered, you're paying out of pocket. But guess what? That deductible has now been hit. And it's like a medical, where it's going to be, you've met deductible if something else happens in that policy period. But yeah, there's many components that are in there for diagnosis, for exam fees, for vaccination fees, regular health checkups are available. But what is the medical part coverage? The best example I can give, and it kind of goes right back to what we talked about to start the conversation, cancer. My black lab, Riley, who lived to be 14, God bless her, she did amazing. She had breast cancer. And that was a very expensive proposition with a double mastectomy way back in the day. And for me personally and for my wife, that was a real decisive moment for us where like, we can't let this happen again because we almost balked at the cost. And this is our baby. We're not going to let that happen. So what I like is these companies have treatment for cancer, including experimental treatment with some companies. So the three big things that you want to pay attention to with Pet Medical is your limit of coverage. You can choose a limit of maximum of $5,000 or $10,000 a year, or unlimited with some companies. There's a co-insurance where you can choose 100% with some companies, so there's nothing more out of pocket after deductible, or you can do 90% or 80%. Bear in mind, if you start seeing lower prices, it's probably because there's a co-insurance where you're going to be on the line for 10% or 20% of the medical after deductible. So the limit, the co-insurance, and then the deductible all help you find a premium that hopefully works for you.
Well, I mean, at the very beginning, or at least very early in this conversation, you said it. They are family members. They're your sons, your daughters,
Our first child, before our son Ethan, who's now 10, going to be 11 in September, was our black lab Riley. She was absolutely our baby. Our second child, of course, is Ethan. Our third child, the big lug, is actually with me today, Charlie, our 8-year-old yellow lab, who has Pet Medical, by the way, and he needs it because he eats everything. Hey, that looks good. Yum. There's going to come a day where I'm going to have to pump his stomach and, it's going to cost me money. But even Charlie right now on the way here today, if we got into an accident, my auto insurance, and some auto insurance companies have this, they have Pet Medical for injury sustained in an accident up to $500. So I have Pet Medical insurance with my insurance company for him specifically with a $500 deductible. And then I've got $500 available on my auto policy. If he gets injured in an accident in my truck, he has full coverage. He has better coverage than I do at that point.
Well, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
All right. So as we prepare to wrap this up, I have one final question for you regarding pet insurance.
Sure.
Okay. If you take your pet to the vets and they are diagnosed with something and you don't have the coverage, if that pet owner wants to get coverage, will that impact them on the issue at hand?
Yeah, sadly, pre-existing coverage is going to be an exclusion. And many companies will put exclusion on hip dysplasia, things like that, early on in the process, it's just a time period, but pre-existing is the definitive long-term exclusion on that. So, it's kind of, we talked about life insurance last week. You need to buy this before something happens. And the younger they are, the cheaper it is. So that's a very good thing. And there's different ways to pay for it. You can do automatic monthly payments. You can do installments of any kind, paying in full. It's something to think about. And you can have multiple animals in one policy. And the company that I have Charlie with, which is FIGO, who we have, has an app where I can get 24-hour vet medical assistance by chat. So there's a lot of cool components in there. But bear in mind, it ain't cheap. It's going to be probably between $500 to $1,000 a year. And I'm talking $500 for maybe the cats and younger dogs, and probably closer to $1,000 for the dogs.
Well, they are priceless. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So that was my question. Other folks may have questions pop up.
Yeah, you can give us a call, 748-5224. Find us on Portland Street in St. Johnsbury, online, thebarrettagency.com, Google, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, Barrett Insurance Agency. And my heart goes out to the Academy Girls softball team. My niece, this is her senior year. I was really hoping they could keep going on, but they played a great season. Lots to be proud of.
Well, they made it to the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Good policies with Magic in the Morning on Tuesdays. We go back to music with Ariana Grande.